Developing now an issue at Ascension hospitals disrupting their network. Ascension says it's not being hacked, but the system has been knocked off. The company's been working to get things back online since it happened, and there are reports of similar problems at Ascension hospitals across the country. Locally, one doctor and a witness inside the hospital tells CBS News Detroit that doctors cannot access any of their computers.
In a statement, Ascension says, quote, "We have notified the appropriate authorities and are working to fully investigate what information, if any, may have been affected by the situation. Should we determine that any sensitive information was affected, we will notify and support those individuals in accordance with all relevant regulatory and legal guidelines."
So joining us live via Zoom this evening is David Derigiotis, cyber and emerging technology expert. He is also the new president of the insurance company Flow Specialty. David, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Terrence.
So we're seeing that this is a widespread issue, getting reports that it's happening across the country. How can something like this happen?
Well, we don't want to jump to conclusions, but if you look at the track record with what's happened with all of these healthcare entities over the last several years, and really you can just zoom in on the last few months here, Change Healthcare had an incredible ransomware attack that was widely disruptive. You even go back 6 months here in Michigan to Corewell, they had multiple issues with vendors that resulted in data breaches and theft of information. So healthcare entities are, unfortunately, they're very prime targets. We've seen with Ascension in Florida, they've had to divert ambulances to other hospitals locally. So it creates serious issues for all involved.
So we don't want to jump to conclusions, of course, but when they're saying they have not been hacked, but the system's been knocked offline, are they jumping to conclusions? Is that just PR speak for they don't know exactly what's happening right now?
I think a lot of it is PR speak. However, there has to be a lot that goes into play when you're evaluating the situation. You want to be careful. You want to be able to relay information to the public and those that have been involved, but you don't want to show your entire hand, especially if threat actors are still within the system, if there is movement, if you're worried about sensitive information being compromised. It's a very delicate balance between being transparent and giving up correct information and holding cards close so that you can remedy the situation as needed.
Even speaking beyond this specific situation, does this speak to how vulnerable we can be and the fact that we depend on technology for so many different things that we operate with every day?
Absolutely. Terrence, you look at Change Healthcare, one of the largest clearinghouses in the United States. I mean, they impacted so many different healthcare entities all over the United States. That had to do with simple security best practices and blocking and tackling, not having multi-factor in place. They made a $22 million ransomware payment. We're so heavily dependent on technology, making sure that we're updating, we're patching, and on top of that, our digital footprint is far extending past our own boundaries. We're relying on third parties and those within our supply chain. So you have to make sure everybody that's operating within your ecosystem, they have proper security controls in place. They are training all of their employees, and you're doing everything you can to protect all of the data, especially in this case, it's very critical information with healthcare entities.
Yeah. David, are you aware of any backup or contingency plans that healthcare systems tend to have for an event like this?
I mean, absolutely. There are redundancy plans that you have to have as a healthcare entity in place to be able to still provide patient care to those that are in need, to be able to bring people into the hospital, to be able to look at patient history, if surgeries are going to be taking place during the course of that day, if you're going to be providing emergency care to those. So they do have redundancy plans in place. It certainly varies from one location to the next. Budgets certainly come into play, all of the proper preparedness that has to take place. Organizations have to go through the fire drill. You have to practice and you have to do tabletop exercises so that you can live out experiences so that when the real thing happens, you are prepared, you can flip that switch, and things can go as smoothly as possible.
So again, the hospital has gone on the record to say that this is not an incident of hacking, but how much damage could hackers cause in this industry and in others as well?
Well, it's interesting. They talked about there being unusual activity within the network. Really, that's code for unauthorized access. That tells me that somebody has gotten into the system that shouldn't be there, or some type of malware or ransomware has impacted those systems. You know, when you talk about healthcare entities, the stakes are much higher than any other typical place, like a financial institution or a manufacturer. When you have people's lives that are in jeopardy, when you have to divert medical care, when you have to take people and bus them in the ambulance and take them to other nearby locations, seconds, minutes, they matter. So healthcare entities, again, they are a prime target because a lot of the past attacks that have taken place They have paid. You look at, again, the last one with Change Healthcare, $22 million ransom payment that was made. So they are typically in the crosshairs for organizations that are looking to carry out these types of activities.
So are we all just at the mercy of these vulnerable systems, or is there anything individuals can do or should be doing? You know, if you have vital health information that needs to be accessed, should you be keeping your own records?
That's a great question. I think being proactive is the most important thing that we can all do. Social Security numbers is often involved with healthcare data. So making sure that you put a credit freeze in place, I think is very important with all of the big national credit bureaus. That will at least slow down the opportunity for identity theft to take place. And again, with healthcare information, it's very unique. So the freeze isn't going to prevent somebody from using your healthcare information to have services provided or to make some type of purchase with medications or durable medical equipment, which we typically see, and they'll resell it for a profit. So you also have to look very closely at your explanation of benefits. Make sure that there's nothing on there that's unusual or strange that raises a red flag for you.
All right. David Derigiotis, very useful information. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.